Today we're diving into a topic that can feel a little uncomfortable for some leaders. Honesty. Specifically, honesty when things are going wrong. We've all been there, right? A project doesn't turn out the way it should, something happens, you make a mistake, and you face feeling like a bit of a failure in front of your team. The easy path might seem like covering your tracks, deflecting blame, or pretending like it wasn't that much of a big deal. But trust me, that never works in the long run. Today we're going to talk about brutal honesty, even when it can feel quite humiliating, and why it is one of the keys to building true respect as a leader. Let's face it, we're human, we make mistakes. But when you try and sweep those mistakes under the carpet and pretend they never happened, it sends a terrible message. It can undermine trust, breed resentment, and make your team feel like you don't respect them enough to be honest with them. I'm sure you can think of an example of somebody in a leadership position who was being dishonest, be that a politician, a teacher, somebody that manages you. What was the lasting impression of that encounter? Perhaps you decided that you'd never trust that politician or vote for them. Perhaps you lost respect for the teacher and maybe even moved jobs due to the dishonest manager. I also think we can all probably think of a time in our work where perhaps we haven't been the most honest. Perhaps somebody called you out in your workplace and asked you directly if you had said or done something that you'd already told them that you hadn't. And then you were trapped in that shameful situation of either admitting that, yes, actually, I lied to you and I did do that, or trying to hold the line and hoping that they don't see right through you. Well, neither outcome is really going to serve you that well in the long run in leadership, because in either of those scenarios, you're either showing that you've broken trust by having to admit that you lied, or you're going to get yourself called out in the long run if you're prepared to hold the line and be dishonest. Unfortunately, I too have been in this situation and can quite distinctly and shamefully remember it. I didn't want to admit that I'd made a mistake, so I pretended to be unaware of a situation. It was embarrassing to then be called out on it and having to fall on my sword and admit that I had actually known about it and had been too scared to admit what was really going on. It still embarrasses me to this day that I wasn't just honest enough to own up to it right up front. I was too full of my own ego to admit when I'd screwed up and too scared of the consequences. I can tell you right now, it was way worse to pretend and then get caught out than it would have been just to cough up right from the start. It really taught me a valuable lesson in being true to yourself and the importance of honesty in leadership. Because who's going to believe the leader that has been caught out in a lie? It's far better just to admit right up front your mistake or what you do and don't know than try and keep up a facade. I also truly think that we can sense it in each other. Yes, I know there are those who are actually very skilled in the department of lying and can pull the wool over others' eyes quite easily and be quite deceptive. But for most of us, we just come across as inauthentic and fake. Now, for those of you who are new to my leadership channel, my name is Nikki and I've been in leadership for over 17 years. And I've gone from leading just 2 people to leading leaders of large teams. And I now truly believe that owning my own mistakes demonstrates authenticity and builds respect. By admitting your role in a setback, you show your team that you're willing to be accountable. This fosters a sense of shared responsibility and creates an environment where learning and growth are valued. Don't get me wrong, it definitely hurts a little bit to have to admit to your team that you're not perfect. But with every little setback or mistake where you show up to your team and you're accountable and you say, okay guys, I think I've made an error on this one, I think we need to reset and do something different. Or perhaps it's in the moment where someone brings something to your attention that you weren't aware of, but when they bring it up, it's so obvious that it is the right thing to do and that you were blind to it before. It could be really easy to say, oh, yep, I've already thought of that, it's all good, I'm confident with what we're doing. To try and illustrate that you know what you're doing and no one needs to question your leadership. However, in my experience, that approach sets you back, and being prepared to say, that is actually a great idea and I hadn't thought of that, let's have a look at it, It's going to set you up better with your team in terms of respect and approachability in the long run. It has almost always meant that I've found the team more connected to the goal and more trusting in the path that we're on if I'm open to feedback and honesty. And here's the surprising thing. Honesty, while it might feel humiliating for a second, is actually really inspiring. When your team sees you vulnerable and that you're prepared to admit when you've messed up, it shows them that you're not afraid to learn from your mistakes. This helps build resilience and encourages your team to be honest with themselves and each other. What I think about is whether I'd rather follow a leader who seems perfect but hides their mistakes, or a leader that admits that they're human, takes responsibility and strives to do better. The leaders that I have admired in my journey, even the ones that I hold in the highest regard, have always had at least one moment that I can distinctly remember where they admitted fault or changed course openly due to feedback or an opinion that they hadn't considered or thought of, which highlighted a missed opportunity or an opportunity to do things better. And in no way did this actually impact on my opinion of them or my respect. In fact, it made me admire them more because it showed that they were open and prepared to admit when they weren't doing things 100%. In fact, I trusted and respected them more for it. I have also done a video on the importance of leadership feedback, which I've linked here on the screen. So here are some ways that I think work really well to embrace honest humility as a leader. First of all, admit your mistakes openly and quickly. Don't wait for somebody to point them out. If you know that you stuffed up, just get on with ripping the band-aid off and admitting it to the team. Same goes if somebody raises a mistake or an oversight. Acknowledge and thank them straight away, noting that you hadn't thought of it and praising them for doing so. Secondly, focus on solutions, not excuses. Show your team that you're learning from the experience and moving forward. If someone else points something out that was a mistake, go straight into talking to them about it and asking their opinion, offering to have a breakout with them to make sure that you've really captured it. It shows that you're open for feedback and resolution. Thirdly, be transparent about what you don't know. It's okay to say, I don't have all the answers, but let's figure this out together. I think the day that I realised that everybody wasn't relying on me to know absolutely everything, and that I could actually say, hey, I'm going to need a day to think about this, or I'm going to get back to you, was the greatest moment and reducer of stress in my leadership. Honest humility isn't about beating yourself up. It's about fostering trust, building resilience, and inspiring your team to learn and grow together. It also really builds on that leading with authenticity, and that's something that everyone can respect. So the next time that you're facing a setback or you've made a mistake, remember that honesty may feel scary, but it is the path to true leadership respect, and reminds your team that you are actually human too. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on your experiences, good or bad, with honesty and leadership. And watch the video linked on your screen about leadership mindset to help really build your own inner strength in leadership too. And thanks very much for watching.